welcome back. Hope you had an amazing 4th of July, although unfortunately it's very inconveniently placed in the middle of the week this year. But anyway, we're back. How you guys doing?
Morning, Ak. It's morning? Morning, what's up? What's up with y'all?
Bright-eyed as always.
What's good?
Look.
What y'all do for July 4th?
Why do you always do this?
I'm just asking. What y'all do?
Man, I actually had to work.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
What you do, Nadeska?
Guys, it's Tuesday here at Everyday Struggle.
What?
We're off for the rest of the week. We're filming at
supposed to bring
Evergreen.
on that
Academics always does this. He always does it. But it's all good. No secrets here.
Today's Thursday. I don't know what these weirdos are talking about.
At least Wayno tried to fake with you. All right, look, guys, real important conversation today. We got to talk about Section 80. So this project came out 7 years ago, July 2nd, 2011. Now, obviously, since then, Kendrick has been on an absolutely incredible run. Looking back, could even diehard Kendrick fans at that point have predicted this run? But let's just start with the album, and I'm going to say something a little bit crazy and then let you guys take it from here.
Okay.
I personally think this is a perfect album, and it has aged incredibly well. But what did you guys think? First impressions when the album dropped, and now 7 years later.
That's
what you
the
think about
boldest
it?
shit I ever heard you say.
It's really not that bold, but I just feel passionately enough about this to
You
say
never
that.
said that about a Cole album, but
right, look.
goddamn.
Let's hear your thoughts, Academics.
When it first dropped, I just thought it was like, honestly, I was in college and this was like studying music for me along with Chief Keef. Trust me, all that shit worked together when it was just good music to just listen to, and you could listen to it from start to end.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the only albums, I believe, of that time. There was a couple other ones. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Common, Finding Forever album was dope for me too. But this was, it played all throughout well. I remember I went to Rutgers University. It was such a favorite of not only just me, but just like students that went there. Like I remember a festival we did at the school that I DJ'd, Kendrick. That's the first time I saw him. And when he performed it, I was like, this is cool now, but this nigga's definitely not gonna be around for like 3 years. I was also surprised by how short he was. It's first and only time I've seen him in person. Then.
Really?
But that's before, we booked him for like $3,000. Like seriously.
Wow.
Like, and I
Steal.
think every one of them came. Schoolboy came and Absol. So this was like early shit.
Very early.
Yeah, and I watched him perform, and I liked how he had a stage presence, even though, like, it wasn't the biggest crowd. It wasn't like, it was maybe like 1,000 people, and it was outdoors, but he had great stage presence, and I was like, you know what? He's gonna be a solid artist, but I would never think the glow up would turn to what it is now. I did kind of catch some of the messages in his music to say, if he continues that route, maybe this could happen, but I never saw this happening. Come on now.
Well, I agree with you that it's a perfect project. This is the first time I gave Kendrick a real shot in terms of listening, because I liked Overly Dedicated, which the hard part too is when I really knew he was no joke lyrically, right? But this was 7 years ago, right? So I'm at the tail end of my 20s at this time, the tail end of my 20s, and I had seen him perform at Sneaker Pimps around when this came out, Gramercy Theater, and I remember being in the crowd with Kendrick performing and him telling everybody to put their hands up, and people looking at him like, no. I mean, so I wouldn't say I didn't see it coming, because I really believed after I heard Section 80 that he was gonna be onto something. I didn't know it would be of this magnitude. Like, he's a superstar.
It's crazy because the lyrics are great, of course. The actual content, all the stuff he's speaking on, still important, still super relevant, and the production's great. But I'm wondering, is it because of Kendrick's message is why not that we didn't think he would be great, but necessarily will become this level of, he's a pop star at this point. He's still ours, right? But
yeah, absolutely.
He's pop star level. But maybe it's because his music, the messages were always so serious. Maybe people didn't think that would translate into like sort of mainstream success, but clearly has.
Yeah, I mean, I 100% chalked him up to be just a backpack rapper who would, of course, garner a lot of respect, but to be the person who is performing at the Grammys and late night shows, and he's pretty much still staying in his element, where he's not just like, all right, you know what I mean, peace out, let me just go hit the pop sound real quick. I mean, of course, some of his songs might be a little bit more melodic now. I never thought that he would gain that acceptance. And I mean, shit, I still even look at him getting to where he is, and I still look at the different factors that kind of play into it, because like you see other artists, they kind of like complain. They're like, hey, look at this guy and how he gets accepted, but I kind of do similar stuff and I don't. You get me? So I I think it's a very unique situation of how his career is going, but I think it's definitely a testament to the type of person he is, and an artist, and someone who doesn't compromise or doesn't quote unquote sell out.
Well, I think he's like, to me, Kendrick is a one of one, right? Like we've never seen anything like him prior, and I don't think there's gonna be anything like him going forward. His sound and his direction has always just been Compton. Like, no matter what year it is, he always lets you know the issues of what's going on in Compton. And what was so ill about a lot of the stuff that he did on Section 80 is he tied it to other stuff he did on Good Kid, M.A.A.D City. So the stories. He talks about Keisha on Section 80, and then in what song is that? Sing About Me on Good Kid, M.A.A.D City.
Right. He
talks about her sister confronting him about talking about Keisha and her going down the same path. So the thing is like, to me, he's been like he's gonna go down as one of the greatest artists ever in terms of hip hop and just music, period. He won a Pulitzer Prize. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, who saw this coming when he did Section 80?
That shit is crazy, and this is only 7 years ago. All right, so looking at Kendrick's discography, can you guys sort of chart the moment where you sort of realized that this guy was going to be a superstar? So Section 80, 2011, Good Kid, again, incredible album, 2012. To Pimp A Butterfly, some people didn't love that so much, still great content. And of course, Damn came out last year. So let's just get to Good Kid, M.A.A.D City. Around that time, when Kendrick started rolling out those songs and the videos, how were we feeling about him at that point compared to Section 80?
You want to go first, Zach?
I knew that nigga was about to just explode when, again, I'm in college. When I seen every time, like, they started playing M.A.A.D City, like, in parties, and, like, just that opening, white kids is going crazy for it. And it's not like, oh, shit, that's just a guy who, it was like, yo, this song, not only is it great, like, lyrically, but this shit is just phenomenal. And that's what I knew. I was like, all right, he's out of here. Like, he's left the little bubble of, like, I'm thinking he's a backpack rapper for certain moods or certain type. You can listen to him, like, sporadically. Like, this guy's out of here.
So for me, it was the Good Kid, M.A.A.D City album. Like, when that album came out, I had this thing where, like, you know, when we would still go on, like, websites to click on whatever new song was coming out. I mean, this is when SoundCloud wasn't as strong, right, when that came out. So on Twitter, everybody's talking about the album, so I made sure I stayed off of it. I waited for a few days. I remember one of my friends, right, he called me. He's an executive. He called me like 5 o'clock in the morning, and I sent him some beats from my producers. I'm thinking he's calling me for that. He calls me 5 o'clock in the morning, and I missed the call, and I call him like, yo, what's up? He's like, yo, did you hear Kendrick album, yo?
You know some shit when you got to phone a friend.
Yo, yeah, 5 in the morning, though. I mean,
That's
of course, he's in L.A., so he called me at 2 daytime, but that still was late. Wow. And listening to Good Kid, M.A.A.D City, which I consider that album a classic. That album made me happy. That shit made me cry. It made me feel a lot of different ways, and that's the first time in a long time a piece of music or a piece of art had made me go through a lot of different emotions. That's when I knew he was going, like, he was in here forever, you know, was Good Kid, M.A.A.D City, because for him, how he structured the album, he started it like a Quentin Tarantino movie. Like, the end starts at the beginning. You hear the praying part and everything, but that's actually a little down the line when the kid gets shot. Now, you go into their whole lives and their whole day. And ultimately, like, when he rolled it out, he got to tell his perspective of Compton and gang culture in a way we had never heard it. We got to hear it from a street perspective and a conscious perspective. And anybody who listens to, like, Good Kid, M.A.A.D City, you got to ask yourself, if you're a kid, well, I wouldn't say just a kid, but like a teenager, and you trying to figure out who you are and all of that, don't join no gang. Because this is like this, Good Kid, M.A.A.D City is the movie that you watch that you say, nah, I'm not going to do that shit, you know?
It's true. It's very true. And so after putting out this album, incredibly successful, again, great content, great production, great big singles that you could dance to at parties, etc. Then we get To Pimp A Butterfly, which was like a turn when you're comparing it to everything that came before, and also Damn. And we're talking about Untitled Unmastered as well. Again, incredible content, but a lot of people didn't find it necessarily the easiest thing. So around this point, how were we feeling about Kendrick's moves? But I think also to his credit that he could put out this album and then come back and give us a Damn sort of, I think people respected him even more for it.
Right. Well, with To Pimp A Butterfly, I I think that's one of those albums that like flies over a lot of people's heads because like they expected a lot of what they expected on Good M.A.A.D City, and it wasn't the same. Like in my terms of rating, I always go by fives, the five system. I think To Pimp A Butterfly was like a strong 4. By this time, I thought it was just ill that he jumped into making the type of music he made. He had what's his name, George Clinton on there. Like for a guy his age to put George Clinton on a song, and then he had Snoop on records. He had the record where he was going back and forth with Tupac. Well, I mean, remember he kept saying, I remember he was convicted. It's like the whole album he's talking to Tupac.
Yeah.
And at the end they have the conversation. It was good, but I don't think like everybody expected it. It was like something unexpected, but it wasn't something that you didn't want.
Exactly. Still important message.
Well, To Pimp A Butterfly for me, severe left turn from Good M.A.A.D City. But what it taught me about Kendrick is what we see now, even with all the success, that he's not gonna compromise, and he's not gonna follow trends, or he's not gonna just make things or music or give us whatever we feel will just make his career, put it on a bigger like pedestal or just make it bigger. Like he's gonna make the music that honestly his heart really tells him to make, and also what's true to his message. And I thought it's a phenomenal album. Actually, I think it's, for that year, I thought it was the best album, but definitely not the most enjoyable.
Okay.
I didn't listen to it a lot. After I listened to it the first couple of times, it didn't have much replay value, but it was amazing. It was amazing. It just wasn't enjoyable. And I know for some people, they can't understand both, right? I thought lyrically it was phenomenal.
Okay.
But it's not the shit that will throw on constantly. Yeah,
right? It's definitely not something to throw on all the time.
I remember comparing that to, what year was this? So To Pimp, it's 2015. I remember, if you're reading this, It's Too Late came out that year, right? We always compare Drake and Kendrick. Drake shit is just enjoyable.
Polar opposites to this project.
It's enjoyable. Is it necessarily, does it have deep messages? Does it tell a story? Is it super lyrical? Absolutely not. And it couldn't compare to Pimp A Butterfly. But you do know, like, it's a little bit more enjoyable, and replay value is a thing. So for me, after he came off To Pimp A Butterfly, and of course, Untitled also fit in that little mix too. I was thinking, is Kendrick almost going on is he reverting as an artist, right? Where he's had that commercial success and that all the accolades that comes with dropping a Good M.A.A.D City. Now he just wants to make what he just really wants to make. And could he strike that balance? So for them, I was pleasantly surprised. That's why it's album of the year for me.
Yeah. So right? To Pimp A Butterfly, like my favorite video off of that was like These Walls. I mean, he had Terry Crews was in there. Like the whole thing was concept driven, and like We Gonna Be Alright. Around that time when We Gonna Be Alright came out, I mean, we're always faced with like a young black man losing their hands.
But at that time,
at that time it was like
back to back to back. I think we were just having a hard time as a culture.
It was a soundtrack for a movement. It was a soundtrack for a time in life.
We Gonna Be Alright.
And you go back to 2015, 2014, like one thing you got to say about Kendrick, and of course you could definitely say about Cole too, and there's other rappers too, but like, yo, he definitely took the flag on for social issues. Like he wasn't the guy that says, you know what, I'm not gonna compromise my work to address all these things. He definitely took the flag.
So yeah, like going back to Pimp A Butterfly, like that, These Walls, Lucy interlude where it's like a lot of people thought he was talking about Suge Knight on that. It was like everything on there was concept driven. Even Black of the Berry, where he said a lot of things about, cause remember he said, "Why did I weep?" when Trayvon Martin was in the streets, when gangbanging make me kill a nigga blacker than me, hypocrite. And that's when it kind of sparked the conversation of social issues that he was having within the hood. Like, how can we have this public outcry for this, but we murder and slaughter each other? But then he started comparing gangs to being like tribal. Like, it's a lot of shit you gotta really listen to on this album.
Yeah.
But To Pimp A Butterfly, then to Damn, right?
crazy that he could go from that project to Damn, because at that point we didn't know what to expect.
Right.
But before we get to Damn, I would like to say I thought you made a very good point about Kendrick never compromising. It feels like when artists hit a certain level of success, they start just taking checks that don't even make sense. I remember when Kendrick did, he had the Reebok collaboration,
right.
and it was all about sort of this gang unity thing.
Right.
Even in his business, it's just like he can't help it. You know what I mean? Like that message bleeds through.
And I think a lot of that, it comes from, him not forgetting who he is. Like the thing is like, rappers always say, oh, nah, I'm in the hood. I think it's like this dumbass concept to be from the hood and make it out of the hood and then say, because I made it out, now I'm gonna stand here all the time. No, you don't need to stand there, but you do need to give examples and set examples for people that they can do something too. So doing a collaboration with Reebok, at the time I was a brand ambassador for Reebok at the time, and the whole message was unity because what was the song on there? The Heart. What was the song?
I can't remember, but yeah, the symbol, he had the symbol on
right, and it was like the hand, the artwork was,
yeah, exactly.
And it was putting red and blue together, and for him to be at that height and to still do something like that said a lot about him, but he doesn't forget where he comes from. Also, when you look at Kendrick, he's did the numbers doing what he wants to do. So why would he ever compromise? Like, he doesn't have to. He can talk about, like J. Cole. J. Cole can talk about exactly what he wants to talk about. He doesn't have to make the club banger or the drink that's going to heat the streets up. He has his time and his trajectory because he has a grassroots fan base. So.
We always got to realize that what happens, and we've seen it, I could name 10 other musicians that we've seen this with more success and just success in general, as you grow, it becomes a kryptonite to creativity. And it becomes the kryptonite to freedom, artistic freedom. You almost become formula driven because, well, this is what works. You become the person chasing trends and just trying to stay on top or stay at a position that success has brought you to. So now you're scared to really even just, that's why even sometimes, we kill even Kanye, but like you have to respect it sometimes. You gotta respect someone who gets to the top and then says, fuck it. I remember watching a Lauryn Hill conversation, and she says, for her, like she said, life is about learning and mastery. And she was saying that people like staying on top of a molehill and trying to just elongate that process of being on top. But like the true genius is like they could walk away from that, do something else, and then master that new thing, and then flip it back around and do something else. I think what Kendrick did and going into Damn, he learned from To Pimp A Butterfly because his message was great and it was definitely conveyed, but to have it really digested by the masses, literally he had to do like the famous term, he had to put the medicine in the candy, right? So he had to make it a little bit more digestible to the masses.
I wonder if he felt that, but since we knew from Section.80 and Good Kid that he could have the message and also have incredible songs that he could perform live here at the club, and then came To Pimp A Butterfly and then Damn. I wonder if he sort of after that was like, I have to get back to sort of records that could be more well received, or did he just want to do To Pimp A Butterfly? Like he wanted that project to be done. He was like, this was for me, like what Kanye calls his Yeezus or whatever, although whatever.
Right.
And then he's like, all right, cool, and let's get back to, regularly scheduled programming.
I never thought of it in those terms, but I think it may seem that, like, I think that could be something real. That's something that he wanted to get off of his shoulders. And then ultimately, it's like a concept-driven album almost, but it's not his best effort, but it's not like his worst by far. Like when you look in terms of consistency, because we're not talking about all the in-between shit. So after Good Kid, Mad City,
would you rank any album above To Pimp A Butterfly? If I'm listening to you, it sounds like.
Would I rank?
And we're gonna get to rankings too. Yeah, we're gonna rank all of them. But
yeah, we definitely can rank all of them. Damn, I got thrown off a bit. But okay, so in between, we're not looking about all the in between things. So remember, after Good Kid, Mad City, he has the Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe remix with Hove.
Right.
That takes him to another level. You know what I mean? Like he had all these things that took him to another level.
Who on that record, by the way?
Yo, you know what's so funny? All right, so the first verse, Kendrick's first verse is regular. Hove's verse is crazy, but Kendrick's second verse is insane. So I got to give it to Kendrick. But
No.
I fuck with the whole shit on that.
It's good, but
yeah,
Kendrick.
but his second verse was insane. But even
You might be
when
right
you-
on that. Yeah, that's the second verse.
Is Black Swan the second verse? I haven't listened to that
Actually,
song.
I also like that the remix. So with Jay and I think is it Gaga doing the hook? Like there's another remix that wasn't that popular, but like it was like Gaga doing like the hook, and then
Kendrick?
Wow, I barely remember this.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
Did you remember?
Holy shit. Yeah.
And then Jay and Kendrick, and yeah, I thought I always played that version because like it felt more like, I don't know, it felt different.
Got you. Now, I mean, in between To Pimp A Butterfly, that's when like a lot of the records that came on Untitled Unmastered between Good Kid, Mad City and To Pimp A Butterfly, because there's a lot of stuff. I think he was on Jimmy Fallon and he did some shit, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to hear this on his next album, and it wasn't there. So then you get into Untitled, which we don't have on the list, but
Because
like,
it technically was.
yeah, it was not
wasn't-
really an
yeah.
album, but in terms of consistency,
It felt like it was songs from To Pimp A Butterfly.
right. And in terms of consistency, he's one of the most consistent with how he stays in his pocket without having a scrutiny like Cole, where we like, Cole, you need to rap on some different shit. Like, we're not saying that about Kendrick. Kendrick has had like the same type of message somewhat, and he stays where he's at and is different every time. So in terms of consistency, he's been one of the most consistent.
Yeah, I'm still amazed these days when I see that nigga on like some late night show and he's basically just with the most pro-black message ever. And I could see the audience is like all white and they're loving it. I'm like, talking to half you motherfuckers right here, you know, right? Again, I'm super happy for of course all success. But I will say, Untitled, that's when he lost me a little bit. I was like, Kendrick, come on.
We get it, but again, I feel like that was part of To Pimp A Butterfly. The
but
songs that he was in.
I got a prediction,
you know?
though.
Yeah.
I got a prediction. I don't think, you know how you said like that's To Pimp A Butterfly was kind of like like that album he had to make. Of course, it was very relevant to the time, and it was definitely one of the soundtracks to a movement that was definitely necessary. But I don't think he stays where Damn is. I think he goes elsewhere just creatively. Like, I feel like he'll make an album again where it's just literally just him in a pocket, maybe telling the story, but it might not get all the commercial success. And I don't think he cares about that. You know what I mean?
What were your
that shit got a lot of
expectations?
success.
Yeah, going into Damn, and it's just like, so yes, Kendrick's told us all these stories over the past 7 years. We're wondering what could he have left to say, and then he comes up with the story about Top Dog and like his dad. That shit blew my mind. It's just like he still has shit to say.
And then how they had the like outro of them reversing it.
Yeah.
And then they reversed the album and played in the sequence from Duckworth down. The thing is, when you look at everything TDE, like I said before, like even with J-Rock and him putting out Redemption, you gotta listen to those type of things to understand how all of this comes to play. Because when you look at the documentary that they rolling out with J-Rock, right? And you see how J-Rock was held as the guy, but Kendrick was sitting, then you understand timing. Like we just was talking about timing on the last episode, you understand timing. So in terms of like, well shit, look, we got Kendrick freshman class, right?
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to that if we get to it.
I know, right? We got so much about Kendrick, it's insane.
I mean, yeah, so we were, we could do this real quick and then we get back. I do wanna have you guys rank his album. But look, so Kendrick was, of course, on the 2011 XXL freshman list. His classmates at the time, Meek Mill, YG, Crit, Yellow Wolf, Lil Twist, Mac Miller, Fred the Godson, Lil B, Sci-Hi the Prince, and Diggy. So now 7 years removed, like, where Kendrick is compared. Obviously, like, Meek's still out here and Mac's still dropping dope music, etc. But it's interesting to see where he is in comparison to his classmates.
Well, I mean, he's the lead of all. Like, he's the lead of all. But, I mean, the most successful, when you look at this, my man, wait, all right, so, course, you got Meek, you got YG.
Stop laughing at Lil Twist, not nice.
That's what I was about to say. You got your big little twist.
But looking at
on
this
here.
list in 2000.
Stop, man. Yeah, that nigga make that nigga snap on a freestyle, man.
Looking at this list in 2011 and this pool of freshmen, who would you have predicted would have come this far? Would it have been Kendrick?
Of course, yeah. I mean, when I looked at that list, the top people, I wasn't as familiar with YG at the time. I was familiar with Big Crit. I thought that Big Crit would be a little bit bigger than what he is now, which when he explains his story, like
super
right now,
talented, but label issues.
Label issues, his own demons he's fought throughout that time. But I feel like he still has like the potential to reach higher plateaus. But Meek, I didn't know much about YG, but YG, he fared well. I mean, everybody else is like kind of honorable mentions at this point. I would say Little B has, at this time, 7 years ago, he lays the foundation for all of the new young artists of today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, flat out, we could just say this is the second best freshman class ever. The first, I believe, is the one that Chance is on, and I can't remember.
Really?
That's really recent, Ak. What about
you think that's the best?
The Cudi, like Wale, like that.
Not even the one with Nipsey and Wiz and Big Sean and
I don't count the first couple of ones they did.
How you don't count them?
Because they weren't.
That one was 2010. That's the year before this.
2010. Well, I got to see the list, but in my mind, I always had the one that Chance was on, and I always had this one just because of the superstars they produced. And I mean, of course, you're gonna have some niggas who get left back. Come on, man, we know what it is. But I thought this was a strong class, especially compared to what we get now. The first couple of freshman classes I don't count because they picked people that weren't freshmen. They were really trying to figure out the concept of the class, and they were grabbing artists that just was about to blow. So they would just call anyone a freshman. So you could have been grinding and like putting out albums for a while, but if they felt you were about to blow, they would call you a freshman. They would put you on the list. So I never really considered those lists a true class. And honestly, they have talented individuals on it too. But
okay, now I get what you're saying. If you're gonna say that for the first list, cool. But you got 2008. It might have been. Was the first one, with Plies and Papoose and Joel Ortiz. I get you. Saigon, yeah, I get that.
What was 2009? Wait.
That's 2008.
Okay.
2009. 2009 is the one with Currency, Corey Guns, Mickey Fax, Blue, a few other people. Yeah. 2010 is, this is why I'm saying you can't count them because 2010. Okay, so 2010 is Wiz Khalifa, J-Rock, Nipsey Hussle, Big Sean,
2010
for Sean,
J. Cole.
Okay, that might be the best.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And then this is 2011.
This might be the second then, or the third. It's top three.
2009 was Wale.
No, but you said the one with Chance on it. Like,
which one had Chance
what year
on?
Is that? So Chance, this was before or after he dropped Acid Rap?
2014.
2014, right? 2014.
That's when I had Trey Ave on it.
Rich Homie was on here. Isaiah Rashad, super talented. Ty Dolla $ign, Lil Durk, Kevin Gates, Troy Ave, Vic Mensa, John Connor. Bibby, there are some good people on this list.
Okay. No. I think I had him lumped with a couple of different people.
Right.
Who's 13?
Schoolboy Q, Trinidad James, Joey Badass, Absol, Logic, Action Bronson, Travis Scott, Dizzy Wright, Kurt Cobain, Chief.
Okay. One of the worst ones is the ones that had like Fetty Wap on it with Fetty Wap, Dej Loaf.
That was 15.
Yep, that was 15. But wait, we're going off tangent right now. Let's get back
to
Kendrick.
Okay, so in terms of, you could kind of see this. Like, you could kind of see who was going to be what. I mean, Yellow Wolf, I thought Yellow Wolf would still be here. Mm-hmm. Like, I thought he would still be here, honestly. I thought that he was in a better position than Mac Miller. And when you look at it, like you said,
are you blaming Shady for his shit?
I'm not blaming anybody. All I'm saying is that, like, he's no longer where he was at one point in time. But to be in that class, of course, Kendrick was going to lead it, and I thought Meek was going to be second after that. So,
all right, how about this? In the past 5 years, how many of those years would we say Kendrick was the best rapper alive?
Best rapper?
Like Lil Wayne terms, best rapper alive.
Best rapper?
Alive.
Best rapper, I say he's the best rapper out of the last 5? Mm-hmm. Shit. Damn near every year, like at least 3. At least rapping.
I have to preface by saying that we're considering works put out in each year, right? Because it's like asking, is LeBron the best player in the last? Are we talking about MVP or are we talking about the best player? Because you get what I mean?
Yeah,
LeBron's the best player for the last 10 years. But are we saying he played the best in that year?
MVP, yes. Let's say MVP then.
MVP, right?
So in the last 5, right?
Last 5 years. And look, sometimes it's only the year your album is out. Sometimes people could ride that for a year and a half, 2 years, do some features, some collabs. So.
Well, I'm gonna say, if we started at 2012, I would say he got that. But if we're starting at 2013, which is the last 5,
All right, let's do last 6.
Yeah.
All right, last
It's
6.
Ken- it's Kendrick.
Okay, last 6. He got 2012. 2013. I think I gotta go with. If you're reading this, is too late. No.
We're not going by project. We're going by.
Yeah, no, but
going by
usually it's gonna. Well, it's an MVP type of thing. It's usually gonna match with a project you did,
So he
or what you were doing. Like,
Right, because this year he didn't put out an album technically, but I believe we still gave him MVP.
I gave him MVP.
Right?
but he's
He's still out here.
he's heavily featured on that's pretty much a project, right? I mean, that Black Panther sounds like you're not fooling nobody.
Yeah, I
Kendrick.
wish you could add it to
That,
his
that's your
discography,
more
but
life.
technically-
You're not
Yeah.
fooling nobody, Kendrick. So that is his more life. So in terms of a playlist compilation thing,
Yeah, it's a soundtrack. It was like I looked at it more like the TDE compilation that everybody wanted, the Black Hippie thing that we're probably never gonna get.
You're right.
Right, but I looked at.
They tricked us.
Yeah, they tricked
I'm
us into
kidding, I'm kidding.
the soundtrack was the TDE compilation.
Fine, we'll take it, guys. It was great.
pretty much every year he's put out an album. He's like been
The MVP.
I think of course, damn, because like this was such a monster of a record. It's 2018, and of course we just talked about Black Panther soundtrack. Like he's still qualifying. I think didn't we discuss this before? Like for the first 6 months, and he hasn't put out a solo project. He's still the MVP for this year.
It's true.
You get me?
Right.
Now, could that change with the last 6 months? We'll see. But
So Drake is not your MVP this year.
well, his album just dropped Friday. So you know what I mean? Like let's see let's see in 2 months.
Okay.
If nobody's talking about his album in 2 months,
They're gonna be. Come on, no, listen. There is nobody not talking about a Drake album. In 2
okay.
months.
But what I mean, if his impact isn't felt in the culture like Kendrick is,
Yeah.
like that nigga Kendrick really, I just never seen something.
It's been
like
a tough
that,
year
where
for
it's-
Drake. It's been a
Has
tough
it?
year for him. I mean,
He had a tough
in
month.
terms. Yeah, tough month.
The year started really well for him, though. Strong start.
Yeah, I'm bugging. It wasn't a tough year.
Thank you.
I'm bugging. But it definitely was a tough.
It was a tough June,
It's been
man.
a tough
It's
summer.
a tough June, man.
Yeah.
But July, you know what I mean? He's always
Things didn't go as planned.
He's always had good luck in July.
It's God's
remember?
plan, Wayno. Don't even worry
July.
about it.
God's plan.
All
July
right.
2015.
All right.
So that's-
I could talk
anyway.
about Kendrick forever, but I know we can't. So one more Kendrick question. How many classic albums does he have?
I would say classic albums. I don't count Section 80 as an album.
How come?
Because
It was an indie album.
It was an indie album, but they didn't push it as like his debut. Like they pushed Good Kid, M.A.A.D City as this is the thing. This is Kendrick Lamar. So for me, Good Kid, M.A.A.D City, classic. Damn, classic. I say 2. But he has a lot of like very good projects aside.
Okay. How do you feel?
3. And I'm not counting. I think all these are classic. Like the niggas just puts. It's just his shit is amazing.
Yeah.
Like
Wait, what's
again,
the 3 you count?
To Pimp A Butterfly. Even though
As a classic album?
yeah, I thought like by far. Actually, I think the rapping on To Pimp A Butterfly is better than Good Kid, M.A.A.D City. The songs on Good Kid, M.A.A.D City. And some of the concepts that he kind of get into, and also it's a first look on a big scale, so like we see it differently. But if we just going by rapping, I think some of his best rapping in his career, like if we're just talking about the 3 albums, was on To Pimp A Butterfly, and that's why I think it's not that easily digestible. This nigga was really rapping, trying to explain some shit. Which of course, if like me, I do love when a nigga make a nice song, like mix the 2, bro. You know what I mean? Just don't hit us with all rapping.
Remember how you said super dope? I think To Pimp A Butterfly's super dope, but it's not a classic. I feel where you coming from, but I feel like it's like really good, but it's not like the most memorable from it.
I remember ranking that album. I did a review on it, To Pimp A Butterfly.
Yeah.
And I said the same thing I'm saying now. Again, ain't a shit I'm gonna throw on the weekend when I'm driving, you know what I mean, down the highway. But I felt it was almost a perfect album in terms of, at least from a lyrical standpoint. I thought it was just a classic. And also, and you know what I mean, it stood for something. Again, it's not the shit I want to hear because I listen to music differently. I usually gravitate towards different music. But man, it was hard for me to listen to that shit and then say this shit is not just like flawless. Like I can't critique it. So I'm gonna give it a classic for that. Regardless, I think we're both in agreement. There's 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
It's 2.
And
I'm not mad at your assessment on To Pimp A Butterfly. I'm just like, that's my thing. I don't think that
Yeah, no, that's a completely
when you look
fair.
at like his career and the projects he's dropped, that's not held as high as the other two, but it's not bad at all. And I do get your point as to the rapping. It's a lot of dope rapping on there.
And what I will say though, like, it's hard to compare like a nigga like Kendrick to himself. Like, you know what I mean?
He outdoes himself every time. Almost.
Yeah. You know what I mean? I remember when that dropped, and I looked at just off the top of my head, I can't remember too many albums that dropped, but I remember that year, and I was like, this is just out of everyone's league. Like, again, one thing with when I'm determining a classic, I think about the time when it dropped or it came out, and like how it not only compares to other music, but how it may make other musicians change their shit up. Like, it has to have an impact. And I felt like the impact was like, yo, listen, for all you niggas who's compromising y'all shit to get y'all records out or dumbing down, no. Maybe you should. Like, just don't compromise and just really, if you're gonna rap, man.
Right.
So,
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Shout out to Kendrick. Just keep
Shout out to
being great,
Kendrick.
but I'm calling Section.80 a classic. Technicalities aside, just incredible.
Right.
Well, I thought it was a
Incredible
tape,
project.
classic tape, man. All
Classic tape.
tapes.
It's a classic album.
Yeah, that
my
shit is
friend.
amazing.
He's definitely, I will say, he's definitely at the center of the hip hop Mount Rushmore for the last decade. Right?
He's one of the greatest. He's gonna be one of the greatest ever.
Can we already say, so
He's
look,
one of the greatest
yeah,
ever.
in 3 years, whatever, he's,
Is he
a
in the
decade
top
removed
10?
from his debut. Like,
time.
yeah, can we put him,
It's hard for me to have a top 10, but I definitely, like, he's my favorite rapper today.
he's one of the all-time greats.
Yeah, he's one of
Can
all
we agree
time
on that
greats.
for now?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Look, so some of these artists, I'm already starting to like throw them in like the top 10s and stuff like that. Like, I'm
Man, you little baby will be in your top 10 next week. He drop another tape.
man, Kendrick. I got Kendrick and Drake in my top 20 rappers of all time.
Okay.
Yeah, Drake is definitely in there. I put Drake in there too.
All right, well, speaking about Drake, let's talk about double albums. So, of course, Scorpion was 25 songs, side A and side B. He's not the first rapper to drop a double album, but we're wondering how it compares to albums past. But I actually wanted to start with this quote from No.ID. He did an interview with Tidal. He was talking about how Jay's 444 album was originally going to be 7 songs, but it kept spilling over, so of course they added the bonus track. So he said, sometimes I think albums are so ambitious. They don't stand as bodies of work because you try to achieve so much, and sometimes we need to do less and say less. This is understandable. I think if you're an artist, you feel pressure to cram so much into a project that it can get long and scattered. So starting with Scorpion, and then we're going to go back down this list, you still feel like this needed to be a double album, Ak?
Yeah. Well, again, in my opinion, I think a lot of fans' opinion, like, we always thought that he's always going to have that little knock on his career that he didn't produce a bona fide classic, because we'll get one dope rap track and then you start singing some bullshit, right? So let's separate them. And if we could ever just grab a hold of you just rapping, and if it's a double disc, let's do it on double disc, he would have a chance to probably enter that conversation, which I feel like sometimes he's robbed of, because, like, if we're talking Good M.A.A.D City, if we're talking To Pimp A Butterfly, and even Damn, and yeah, even Damn, like, there's a lot more, it's a lot more singing on it from, like, R&B singers and other people, but we can still say classic, and people, you have no problem saying rap classic. When you hear Take Care, people saying, is that even a rap album? You get me? And that is a knock when you want to consider, you tote that you're one of the best MCs of all time. So I thought a double album was necessary, but of course it's very hard to accomplish, not only pleasing everybody, but creating a classic album. That's what it is.
Absolutely. So, I mean, let's run down quickly some of the lists of, classics. Tupac's, of course, All Eyes on Me, Life After Death, Wu-Tang Forever, Blueprint 2, Diplomatic, Immunity, Speaker Box, Love Below, Streets Disciple. Wayno, compared to some of these sort of albums, I think you like a few of these, like double albums.
I
You
like
mentioned the Diplomats. Are you into the concept of a hip-hop double album, and did you feel like Drake executed well compared to some previous projects?
See, I don't want to, like, times are so different when a lot of these albums come out. I think it's unfair to, like, kind of compare, like, these albums to Drake's. I mean, we comparing them because they doubles, but it's kind of hard to put that on them, only because Biggie's Life After Death was received a certain way. That shit came out after he died. So it's like we received it a certain way. It made us feel a certain way, but it was a lot of phenomenal rapping, and rappers couldn't sing at that time. Like, you didn't have rappers singing at the same time, so I don't want to put I don't want to put that on Drake. I think it's a little bit unfair.
Okay.
But overall, when I look at a lot of these double albums, to me, a lot of them is just cool. Like, they're not the best thing to happen. I mean, Tupac, All Eyes on Me, I felt like that was a classic album. And I felt like Biggie, Life After Death, that was a classic double album. Wu-Tang Forever, I felt like that shit was just cool. And I'm a big Wu-Tang fan, but I felt like we know Triumph, you know what I mean? And we know the video more than we remember that whole entire album. It's just not memorable to me, right? That's not to knock on anybody else. Bone Thugs, Art of War, I mean, the only song I really remember off of that really is the joint with him and Tupac.
So basically, too many songs. Is it what No.ID saying? You pack too much in that we don't even care to try to remember this.
And even when you get to Outkast, right? I love Love Below so much that I don't even listen to Speaker Box. You know, it is a lot to do and to accomplish. I think Drake had the right idea, and I don't want to say it was too soon because I feel like he probably, you know, he always wanted to do a double album because all of the greats have done double albums, but I don't think it fares well next to all the rest of them. But when you look at all the rest of them shits don't fare too well either.
Interesting. Well, look, more artists are doing it.
Diplomatic Immunity, that should go hard, man.
Diplomatic Immunity was a moment. I mean, I'm from Harlem, and I worked at Rockefeller when Diplomatic Immunity came out, and I worked at Rockefeller when Blueprint 2 came out. And Diplomatic Immunity was just such a great moment for Cameron because it was his, like, get back. He had just went platinum for the first time with Come Home With Me. He was trying to break Jewels, who was the next new young guy. So Diplomatic Immunity was a really, really good album. But that's what I'm saying. Like, when you look at all of these albums, it's like they're not that double albums don't really age that well.
Right.
You know, they don't really age that well, with the exception of a Diplomatic Immunity, of course, All Eyes on Me, Life After Death. But all the rest of them is kind of like,
doesn't age very well.
Yeah, it doesn't age. And I feel like Drake, he wanted to put himself in that conversation because, you know, everybody's been asking that. I always felt like he should have did a R&B album and a rap album, but I didn't think that he was going to do them together, you know? Should have did like Nelly, like with Sweat and Suit. You know what I mean?
I honestly believe that
Sweat and Suit.
Drake had a couple of reasons why he did this double album. Number one, of please fans, right? I think the notes that he put in the album saying where he was critiquing himself, but he was quoting what fans usually criticize with him, it is kind of acknowledging that, yo, he knew people wanted this. Number two, it's a streaming era. Drake is a streaming king. He just did 1 million last time. Yeah, you want to do 1 million again. You want to show that there's no fall off. You're consistent to where you're at. But this is where I feel, and I won't really stack it up or compare it to any of these albums here, just because the shit came out on Friday. Like, these albums, again, like, some of these albums lived 20 years. You get me? And it's so unfair for us to, like, just lump it with all of these. Most of these, as you were saying, they're moments. Like, these are moments.
Big moments. Like,
right? And he's still having his moment. Who knows how it will be looked at in a year or 6 months from now. This whole, like, cycle of this album coming out, videos that get rolled out, storylines that unfold, maybe things that we find out later, so we don't know. But I will say, it goes back to my criticism of this album when we first talked about it on Monday, which is, I felt like the thing with Pusha T, and it's in my belief.
He ruined it.
He fucking ruined it. You feel me? Like, I feel like Drake changed some things on it to address, you know what I mean? Like, Drake went from saying, this album's gonna be for my city. Said that at the All-Star game, I believe, right? One of the NBA games, he got on the mic, or the Raptors game. And it went from that to now it was like, hey, this is me kind of explaining to you guys why I've been hiding a kid from you. And it took a whole different feel, and it felt like it was changed. And just because of that, man, I have to imagine that this is just not what Drake originally intended, right? And when we start getting into what an artist originally intended, and again, I'm going off a lot of assumptions, but I feel like they're educated because there's proof out there to suggest what I'm saying is true. When we think about what's intended versus what we get, yeah, I mean, I don't know if this is exactly how he wanted the double album to feel.
To play out. Well, so you explained Drake's theoretical reasoning for splitting this to please fans and get that classic album. But we do know a lot of artists are going to keep putting out longer albums simply for streaming. Is that bad for fans, or is that better because you get more music even if it necessarily isn't great?
I think that a lot of these artists got to just take their time. Like, my biggest problem with all this is, like, when I think of in terms of music, I understand business because I'm a part of the business. I'm a part of hip hop culture. But I love music, and I love, like, the time that it takes to put it together, the time that needs to be spent on the mixes, not rushing, knowing what you're going to talk about, knowing exactly where you're going to go. And I think that when we get to all of these, like, fast things, or let me just get this out, because, of course, like, Drake wasn't going to push his album back. He had the battle and all of that shit, and then he did go back and change things. But I think sometimes it just needs a little bit more time to get it right. And this streaming shit is cool, and I understand everybody getting their money, but we talked a lot about compromise in the beginning of the show, you know, and not compromising your time or your sound or your effort. And I feel like a lot of the Drake records on this album was compromised to just, like, get it out a little bit faster. Now, we, like you said, maybe more things unfold. He explained things. Drake has never really explained himself about nothing, right? And now he's explaining a lot. I just would like to hear it more through the music. So I'm cool on the whole rushing and then putting out a whole long album. And I'll take some time to get a shorter, compact project that's going to give me what I want, like a Kendrick is doing.
It's interesting to see how things is going to turn, right? Because I think you see the artists like Lil Pump, like, they realize, man, niggas got ADHD, bro. We ain't want to listen to you make a song for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Keep it 2 minutes. When artists are now putting, like, for example, I had the streaming party, and, like, a lot of people tuned in. The amount of people who were listening, of course, it was like, it came out at midnight, and the album ran for an hour and 20 minutes, but the amount of people who stayed to listen from the beginning all the way to end was about half the people. Like, people, you get tired if you're gonna listen to an album that is that long in full length. Actually, they said that Drake's album in length equals the length of, like, 4 of those 7-track albums. Of
course, someone did the math on that.
So
Right, and too much time on their hands.
So again, I do believe that, especially if those tracks aren't 100% necessary, like when you have a double album, like a double album could be 14 songs. It could be also 16. You don't gotta go 25. When you gonna have 25 songs, I believe that all those songs gotta be necessary. Don't have no meaty songs. And I'm not gonna lie, and when I was telling y'all that some of the tracks I could have done without, I either thought they were meaty, like they're just fillers, what they call album fillers, or they were just garbage.
Some were just a little bit redundant.
And that might just be a difference of opinion. But
I'll say this. In terms of, like, albums of the year and all of that, I think when it comes to hip-hop album of the year, the person who I think is going to have hip-hop album of the year album hasn't even come out yet. I think that's going to be Meek Mill.
Okay.
I think Meek Mill, if his album gets to drop this year, for everything he's been going through, for everything he feels and everything he's going to have to say, he's going to give us something that we've never gotten from him.
Yeah, it's like the moment is already there. It's created, right? It's just like we need the music now. All right, let's see. Curious how long that would be. I doubt Meek's going to put out a double album, but I'm sure there are going to be more rappers putting out doubles and triples for streaming, but hopefully they at least edit them to the necessary tracks.
Man, I could tell y'all niggas what songs to delete, man. Y'all got too many yes men in the studio. Y'all hit me up, man. I'll tell y'all to delete half them bullshit ass tracks. Trust me. Straight. Remember when Cam said he heard that J verse? He said he told the engineer, delete that. Just delete it.
Don't let Act tell you what to delete.
Trust me. No, man. Don't let it leave the studio. Delete the session files, delete the acapella.
How long is your edited Scorpion playlist?
You know what? I've seen a bunch of those pop up. I haven't edited yet because you know why? And I know we talked about it on Monday, and Wayno famously said, you're not keeping the same energy. We should have a conversation, and we have had this before on the show, but I don't think me and Wayno have had this. There's certain artists, their music sounds great on first listen, but maybe their music don't last long, or you don't listen to their shit like 3 months later. And then there's certain artists, like on first listen, you're either confused or you don't get it, or it doesn't hit. And it catches on after a while. Drake's music on first listen, I'm always like, And sometimes it gets better. Now, sometimes, no matter how many times, that's when you know it's trash, right? No matter how many times you listen to it, like, I'm still upset that I'm upset. It's on that album. I'm very upset.
Him, man.
And I'm still trying to listen to Summer Games. I hear a lot of people say, no, it's dope. Trust me, that shit is garbage, okay? So it's one of those. So, like, as we grow with the album, sometimes your opinion changes. The only thing that fucks it up these days is that when there's 5 albums dropping every Friday, like, could you grow with every album?
Yo.
Like, that's why I also fuck with Tiana's joint. I'm like, yo, Tiana's joint, it was short, of course, but, like, it felt like an appetizer. I was like, yo, shit, I want more. And it wasn't one of those joints I had to, like, listen and be like, do I like this? I'm like, yo, let me run it again, or I got to go in the whip to hear it to get a different feel. Maybe this environment is fucking it up. For Drake's album on first listen, maybe it was the Henny or maybe it was the Sombrero. I was like, some songs like, what the fuck is... And also, I couldn't get jiggy with him just constantly just apologizing to his son and bragging on baby gifts. That shit was wild. I don't know.
Oh, my God. All right, we're going to
said
have
I got
to
you 20 gifts, man. Have you ever seen a father stunt just on getting baby gifts? Wayno, you got to teach Drake something about father.
Hey, man, I'm not teaching no man nothing about father.
I got an empty crib in my empty crib.
Hey, the lines are clearly, they're sticking with you, bro.
They sticking with me, but I'm like, yo, is this what we doing as fathers? Like,
hey, man, listen, at least what I will say is that for all the explaining he does, I believe he loves that boy.
No, of course.
I believe he loves him.
No, 100% I believe that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just want him to realize that that's not like an accessory to like stun other niggas with now. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, my son fresher than yours. Nah, don't do that, Drake. Don't do that.
People do
Your
that.
fathers
People
did
actually
don't
do that.
Okay?
Act is crazy.
Yo.
My son got more in his trust fund than you. Nah, we good, dog. We good.
On that note, Ak always tease me up for the greatest outros with some random ass thoughts, yo. But
Right.
thank you.
Coming, right?
Yeah. Oh, podcast. Thank you. New episode of the Everyday Struggle podcast airing tomorrow, Friday, everywhere you get podcasts. So make sure you check it out. That's it from us for the week.
Yeah, I know a next Drake bar gonna be like, my kid wasn't hidden. The only thing hidden is the hills. Get that one.
my
That was trash.
That's a Drake joint. That's how Drake been giving it up.